On today's episode, I talk with Tatiana Tsoir about unlimited earning potential, disrupting traditional business models, and why she'd teach psychology to future entrepreneurs. I'm Julie B., and they don't teach this in business school. Hey there, I'm Julie B., and this is They Don't Teach This in Business School. On this podcast, we discuss the behind the scenes of being a business owner. Today's episode is going to be a really good one because I get to interview Tatiana Tsoir, the founder of the Bold Method. And I know we're going to have a fun conversation about some of the lessons she has learned along her own business ownership journey. So Tatiana, welcome to the show. I'm so glad to have you here today.
Thanks so much, Julie. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So the first question, just give us an overview of you and your business and, what you do for the people you work with.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, I actually have several businesses, which is pretty expected. If you know me personally, you would know, you would not be surprised. But my primary business at the moment is a boutique tax and accounting firm where I work with business owners to help them build a better business, get all of their needs taken care of, like bookkeeping, accounting, and all of those things. And of course, file taxes, but also proactively save on taxes, right? My second business, which is the Bold Method, is a business advisory consulting and coaching business where I work with business owners to help them triple their profits using no-cost strategies, meaning no additional advertising spend and things like that, so that they can live the life they want. And I'm really passionate about that. Not really passionate, hard to be passionate about taxes, right?
I hear you. Yeah.
I'm also an author and speaker. And so I speak professionally, and I am working on my second and a half book. I have an ebook that's a business strategy specifically. I have one published book that's a physical book, and I'm working on my third book, so to speak.
Well, Tatiana, you obviously love being a business owner. So I want to ask you, what is your favorite part about being an entrepreneur?
My favorite part is the time freedom and also unlimited earning potential. Because, as a mom, as a parent, it's important for me to be available when there's a snow day or a sick day or any of the above. And so I've certainly enjoyed not having to go somewhere and pretend I'm working or anything like that, especially when we talk about working for accounting firms. So I've certainly enjoyed that. And also when you work for yourself, there's really no limit as to how much you can make. And so that's also one of my favorite parts.
Cool. Yeah. So kind of on the heels of that, I know one thing that you probably see often with your clients, and maybe even you struggle with yourself, are certain tasks that business owners tend to do that they have a hard time getting off their plate. Are there any specific roles or functions that you've found either in yourself or with some of your clients that seem to be particularly difficult to delegate or to outsource?
I think it has to do with mindset, but at least for me, it has been. And for some of my clients as well. I had this thought that if I hire people, my husband used to say, because he used to manage big teams and at work, and he used to say that when you hire people, their problems become your problems. And so I kind of took that seriously, and I thought, I don't want to hire anyone. But then about 6 years into building my accounting practice, which I've stopped, meaning that I'm no longer taking on clients and stuff in the accounting practice because I focus more on being the advisor and consultant and coach. Kind of six years into it, I was doing everything, including the TOMA campaign, so top of mind awareness, when you mail a handwritten card to a person or a flyer or whatever. I used to do everything. And then when I hired my first admin, my fear was, and I think I can relate to non-accountant business owners, that my fear was that I will be on the hook for expense, right? But then what I realized that it's not that much. I've hired someone at $20 an hour who learned in the process. But that first week when we had an agreement and I gave her all of the Jim Rohn's book, which is what I send for prospective clients and all of those things, I felt so good to not have to do that anymore. And it was liberating. And I think that that's kind of that moment when you're afraid because you now have to pay someone. You're afraid that maybe you're not going to have enough, or you run out of money or whatever. But I think that that's important to catch yourself when you're thinking that way and realize how much time you can free up and do other things.
Well, and to your point about one of your, favorite parts of being a business owner is the unlimited, wealth or income potential. I think you have to get to a point though to have that. There comes a point where you have work that you have to delegate no matter what. I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong in that, but I feel like there's only so far you can go by yourself, and to get to that unlimited point. I feel like you have to have a team behind you helping you get there.
Yeah, and I think when we talk about a team, people get sometimes scared, and I know because I felt the same way. But people get scared. Oh, a team, that sounds expensive. But it actually doesn't not, a team doesn't mean it's full-time people working for you. You're paying payroll tax and all of those things.
Yeah.
You can hire freelancers for a certain task, like a copywriter or an admin or executive assistant. And that could be 5 hours a week. That could be 10 hours a month, things like that. And it doesn't become as expensive as you would think. And I think that that's probably one of the things that people fear when they think about hiring somebody else and having help in their business. But like you said, there's always going to be a limit as to how much you can make, because usually when you're in business by yourself, there is a limited time, a limited hours in a day and a limited hours in a week. And I've been practicing structured weeks for the last 2-3 years, and it's been really helpful. And the beauty of it is that I keep Mondays and Fridays open so that I get a chance to connect with colleagues and maybe ask some questions or answer some questions. And I get a chance to, let's say, have a snow day or a sick day and reschedule things around it. But when it's just you working in the business, you will never be free. Because especially like from someone who is an accountant, right? Accountants are known for hourly rates and all of those things. Now there's been sort of a movement the past 5-7 years maybe for value billing, which sounds great on the surface, but how do you actually implement it? That's the problem.
Yeah.
And then again, your hours are limited during the day. And if you can outsource, and by outsource, I don't mean outsource internationally or to people you don't know, but by hiring someone part-time or as needed, hourly basis, you can free yourself up and create systems and processes so that you can make more without spending more time and utilize resources, which really brings me back to this point that, this is something that's going to be in my TED. I'm having a TEDx talk in a month, actually less than a month. But I had a conversation with a client of mine who's an extremely talented CEO of a business. And he said to me, accountants don't start businesses, visionaries do. And I think he's absolutely right, because accountants, doctors, engineers, lawyers all call what they do a practice, not a business. A business mindset is when you create systems, processes, you use other people's time as a resource to make more profit. And it's a beautiful thing. It doesn't mean you're operating a sweatshop, but it does mean that you hire people, you give people jobs and ability to work. And there's plenty of, I know, moms who would love to not have a full-time job, but still make some money on a regular basis. And so I think there is benefit and win-win actually for everyone if you do hire other people to help you.
Hey, this is Julie B, and you're listening to They Don't Teach This in Business School. I'm here today with Tatiana Tsoir, and we were just talking about some of the elements of delegating and teams and all of that goes into business. But I want to shift gears a little bit, Tatiana, and ask you, what has been your biggest win as a business owner?
My biggest win as a business owner has been working 2 days, maybe 1.5 days a week in my tax business, which allowed me to write a book, which allowed me to become a speaker, trained as a speaker. Really creating a schedule that works while quadrupling my income. I think that's probably my best win, because as accountants, we often neglect our families and things like that. And I've certainly done my share of that over the years, but it's a priority. It always has been. It's just, I got the tools that I needed to make it work. And now I feel that that's my biggest win, being able to be there for my family, for my kids when they need me. That's really the biggest win in business that anyone can have, because business is personal.
Well, and that's the reason a lot of people go into business to begin with, is to have flexibility of time. And a lot of times that's to be able to be more available to family. So I think, yeah, the fact that you've been able to achieve that is pretty impressive. So on the flip side of that, I like to ask, if you look back over your time as a business owner, is there any decision that you've made that maybe you would change or do differently now that you are where you are today?
I think my biggest holdback in business has been me, like my own, I got into in my own way. And here's what I mean by that. When I started out in my tax career, I was a bookkeeper before I became a tax accountant for 5 years, maybe, actually, probably even 6 years. I don't remember. But I remember working for a CPA firm, and we have these Saturdays. And I said, well, allow me to work during the week so I don't have to come in on a Saturday. And they were like, that's not how it's done in the business. And I'm like, why? And so I think somehow, somewhere in the process, I realized that I kind of got that mindset a little bit. And for 6 years, I've been building the business the way traditional accountants build their business, more clients. Then the client pays you, let's say, $2,000 a year for a tax return or something, if it's $2,000 a year, and then they own you, they ping you, they email you, and you're stressed out, or you're providing all this stuff for free and all of those things. And I feel that because of that, I held myself back. I didn't see that there was another way. There's a different way. And when I came across this 2 coachings, one was a business coaching to help me take my time back, and also proactive tax advisory training, which was technical training. That's what allowed me to do this. But when I signed up for it, I already had probably about 100 to 120 clients at an average rate of about $1,000 per client, so 120,000, right? And I couldn't afford the coaching. It was close to 15 grand total. So when I signed up for them, I signed up because I thought, I'm busy. I've gotten busy where I was working 5 days a week off season, 7 days a week during the season. And I thought, this isn't, like, I can't do this anymore. My kids were telling people that mommy always works. And I was like, that's not why I wanted to do this. But when I came across those 2 trainings, it was with us at the same time, 2 together. I couldn't afford it. It was over 10% of my revenue. And I thought, I just can't do it differently. I can't do it the same way. I have to do something different. So I signed up, and I never looked back, right? I got my time back. I got a lot more money. And I realized that I was the one who was standing in my own way. I was the one who didn't allow myself to trust that there are ways to do it differently, because I thought, what can I possibly learn? I already know it all, right?
Well, how many years in business were you at that point?
6.
Yeah, I see that with business owners a lot who are in that 5 to 9 year period. Often they have that thought of, like, they're not newbies anymore, and they feel like they know it all. Not that they know it all, but sometimes they feel like, I've got this. Like, I know how to do this. Like, they don't need that help. And then once you hit 10 years, I feel like that's when you get that maturity of, I have no idea sometimes what I'm doing, and I need help. So I asked you that because I was curious when in your history of business that happened, and I was guessing it was in that time frame.
Yeah, you're right.
So, Tatiana, one thing I talk about a lot with business owners is burnout. And I have a feeling it kind of uh, dovetails nicely off of what we were just talking about. But do you have any stories about burnout that you'd be willing to share with the audience?
I mean, accountants wrote a book on burnout, I think.
Yeah.
um, I think that accountants, unfortunately, I call accountants, and you're going to laugh at this maybe, but accountants, I call traditional accountants into S&M. And the reason is, I think, because so many of traditional accountants are miserable, but they love being miserable. They do nothing to change that.
Mm-hmm.
But burnout is real, and think about it this way. The typical path for an accountant has been get more and more clients, get burned out, hire somebody to help you, then be pressured to get more and more clients because you have to pay somebody's salary. Then again, and it's a catch-22 that never stops. It never ends. And so you are in perpetual burnout, and people live like that for decades. I think that it's awful. And my own stories of burnout, like I said, it was kids telling people, "Mommy always works." And for me, it was a wake-up moment. A WTF moment, I would even call it, where I realized that I just can do it that way anymore. I was working 5 days a week. People would pay me, let's say a business client would pay me $1,200 or $1,000 for a tax return.
Yeah.
And they would feel that I owe them to answer their emails, to answer their notices, and all of those things for free. All of that stuff takes a lot of time, and accountants are known for not charging for any of that stuff or giving quick advice. And burnout was not, before my business grew to about 100 clients or 120, that range, in the 6th year of my business, being in business. Every summer I would take, and this was important for me because I quit the CPA firm because I wanted to be on my own, because I got pregnant and I quit the firms because I didn't want to raise children in stress and stuff. And so I quit and I started my own thing, which I knew I would do eventually anyway. And so every summer, like for 2-3 months, we would reconnect with kids. I mean, I never had a nanny. My mom helped out in the first few years of my kids. And I would go somewhere. We would go to a farm, we would go to a park, a playground or something. We would always do something in the summer because the weather was nice, or a swimming pool. And then this one year, which was 2018, I got this schedule where, like, a client emails me and we need to discuss X, Y, and Z, and where can you do it? And I look at my calendar and it's open. So I would schedule one on a Wednesday afternoon or morning. And then I ended up with every day of the week being having something. Yeah. And so that summer I didn't get a chance to reconnect with my kids and spend all that time together. And I was really upset. And so this was my burnout in terms of something that really matters in life. And I mean, it matters to everyone, but it matters to me. It's a priority for me. Yeah. So that burnout was a wake-up call. And that's kind of when I decided I can't do this the same way anymore. I have to do something differently.
You're listening to They Don't Teach This in Business School, and I'm the host, Julie B. I'm here today with Tatiana Tsoir, and we were just talking about burnout and kind of how you got into that. But there's one thing I really want you to talk about, Tatiana, because a lot of B2B service business owners and entrepreneurs listen to this podcast, and I have owned a marketing agency for 15 years. And that element that you talked about, where when you have clients who are paying you, X dollars for the year, or for a tax return in your case, or for, a marketing monthly fee, and they feel like they can constantly reach out to you and ask you, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? What should I do here? How did you change your business model to go to more of that value-based pricing, which is, common these days among CPAs? And how did you go through that transition?
It was an interesting journey. I can say with confidence that as of last June, so we're talking June 2022, I've completed that process. It was a 3.5-year journey.
Mm.
I got trained in price psychology.
Gotcha.
And it was eye-opening for me. I also sort of, there are a couple of accountant value billing gurus that talk about it. The problem is that when they talk about it, you don't know how to actually implement it. You understand you want a value bill, but you don't know how to do that properly. And so I got trained in price psychology and now offer that as a service, but I applied it to my own firm. And now I teach other accountants how to apply that to their own firm. I had to restructure because accountants, we even joke between us that clients ask us quick questions, right? We call it quick questions. And what I really loved was Ron Baker, who's considered to be the father of value billing in the US, he said, people don't pay you for your hours. People don't pay you for taxes or whatever it is that you do. Obviously your listeners are not accountants necessarily, right? People pay you to access your brain.
Yeah.
And that access is expensive because I spend a lot of time and money getting it to where it is. And so my restructuring started with, price psychology talks about menu pricing, having 3 packages and all of those things. And so initially when I started that process, it took probably about 1 year or 2 years of fine tuning. And now I finally last year, I guess, engaged out a bunch of clients who are not part of the model, which was great, because now I don't have to deal with lack of books or stuff like that, which is really painful for an accountant. But I developed my pricing, and I realized that I no longer can offer a tax return preparation as a standalone service. It has to come with bookkeeping and or some tax planning. So the minimum fee is X, Y, and Z. And so I made that my basic package. So in order to work with me, there's a basic package. There's always going to be people that want an all-inclusive resort. I'm one of those people generally. And so for them, you have to have a package that includes it all, right? And usually the more people pay, I mean, you probably know this, the more people pay, the less they bother you because they respect their time and they respect your time as well.
Isn't that funny how that works out? Yeah.
Yeah. But the clients, the clients love it. And I have a number of clients who are on my elite package. The audit representation is included for that. Notice response is included for all the packages, things like that. But I no longer, and if they send me an email, it's usually clarification, or we discuss something on the phone, on the call. We have weekly calls with the lead clients, or depending on how they are looking to connect and get support from me. But the idea is that they generally are really good clients because we take care of everything for them. And I utilize a bookkeeper and an accountant to help with that. And the middle package is great. So I've developed those, fine-tuned them probably 2 years into it, phased out 10 to 20 clients every year who I knew, you see their books, that they can't afford you. Yeah. So they can't afford to be on board. So I just referred them to another CPA. Some accountants sell clients like that. Either way works, but that's kind of how I got into where I am today. And it was a process. It wasn't something that you just flip the switch and that's it, you're value billing.
Yeah, especially when I think we all are kind of geared to think one way about how certain types of industries offer certain types of services. And when there's an education process to it. But I think ultimately at the end of the day, what's really important and the types of clients you want to work with are those who both respect your time and, respect your knowledge, but you also know that they know that you are going to respect their time as well. So I think when you elevate to that level, there's a mutual respect there that you don't get when you're basically selling tax returns or selling, setting up social media accounts in my case. So, I think I just wanted to talk about that a little bit because I know a lot of business owners who listen to this struggle with that, lawyers, CPAs, insurance brokers, like there's all kinds of these service-based businesses that, all day long, they could be hit up by existing clients who think that just because they pay them once a year or once a month, even that they can contact them at any time for anything. And that's not always the case. So, Tatiana, I do want to ask you, because I love asking business owners this, how do you define success?
Success for me is to have the time you want for family and enjoying a great business that not only makes you money, but also changes the world, makes the world a better place. That's success.
Well, you can't get much better than that. So, listen, I have enjoyed this interview so much, but as we're coming to the end of the show here, I always have one question I ask business owners, and that is, if you had taken a class on business ownership when you were going through business school, what is one thing that you wish you would have learned in that class?
For me, it's psychology. And I'll explain kind of what I mean by that. I'm studying psychology now just for myself because I enjoy it so much. I actually wanted to be a psychology major way back in the beginning of my college, and my then boyfriend, now husband, said every Russian is a psychologist. And I'm like, darn it. So I decided against it. But, psychology is important, not just organizational psychology. I have an MBA, I've been through business school, and, it could be a different session for us to talk about what they should and should not teach in a business school. But psychology, human psychology is important. And the reason I wish I had learned that is because money, taxes, and all of those things play a direct role in how mentally healthy you are. Money worries is something that creates anxiety and all kinds of psychological effects on a human being. And I know that from my dad, of how he grew up and how I grew up when he was still here. And I think that those money worries and those numbers affect us so much psychologically that we become different human beings. My dad used to scream at us as kids, and when I became a business owner, I understood why he was screaming, because he was bringing his stress, money stress, and worries in his business home. Which is another conversation, how he should have handled it. But, he was a great dad and all of those things. We got a lot of things that he didn't have when he was growing up. But for me, if I had known how to be my own support system, how to be my own core, as opposed to trying to lean on somebody else or not leaning on anyone and just being lost and anxious and worrying all the time, knowing what to do, that's something that I wish I learned earlier in my business career.
Yeah. I hear that. And it's interesting because kind of circling back to the psychology thing, it's funny how we always end up, I think, doing a little bit of what we always wanted to do. I got a degree in accounting and a master's degree in accounting and a CPA license. But when I went into school, there were two things that I was thinking about majoring in. One was marketing, which I started a marketing agency, almost 15 years ago now. And two was sports broadcast. I wanted to be like a broadcaster, and here I am with these podcasts and creating a media empire. So I think it's funny how things sometimes come full circle, and that's that. When you're that age, you tend to listen to other people more than you listen to yourself, I think. And I think that is something that I would teach in business school is just to trust yourself a little bit more than maybe you do. Give yourself a little bit more credit for knowing where you want to go.
Yeah, for sure. Trusting yourself and also trusting your interests and I believe in having skills that can support you. And so if I could go back, I would take psychology as a second major or something like that,
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
I still love accounting and things like that, which is why I still do it. But I wish I learn psychology, so not only can I help me, but also help my clients who struggle with the same thing.
Exactly. Well, Tatiana, listen, I have so enjoyed this conversation. I'm really excited for you and wanted to say congratulations about getting a TEDx talk as well. I know how big of a deal that is. But I know the business owners listening are going to just enjoy this and learn so much as well. Just thank you so much for being on the show today. It's been a really good one.
Thanks so much, Julie. It's been a pleasure.
And that's it for this episode, but stay tuned because I'll be back with more lessons learned on the business owner's journey. I'm Julie B, and they don't teach this in business school.